Okay, let's talk a little bit about product lines and life cycles. This, once again, is another part of the product and brand. Core product decisions that have to be made. First decision that has to be made, obviously, when we produce a product is how much are we going to charge for it. Now, we have a couple of chapters on pricing, but the idea from a product decision-making perspective, there are two basic approaches to pricing. One is to produce the product and then figure out how much you can charge for it. The other approach is what we refer to as the Japanese automobile approach, which is to say, I want to produce a car that costs this amount of money. It can't cost any more than that, and it shouldn't cost any less than that. And so I have a targeted price when I start to design the product and build the product. Other product decisions that have to be made is what attributes and features will the product have? What kind of styling will the product have? What quality levels are we going to try to maintain? What accessories are we going to offer as part of the product and offer perhaps as additional products? Is installation included? What about the instructions? One of my funny stories is that I designed some of the very first wristwatch setting instructions. And so when you buy a new wristwatch and you can't make heads or tails of the instructions, you can thank me in small part because I designed the first ones that were hard to understand. Also, another aspect is, will there be a warranty? What's the return policy? And will there be service support, either in person, online, or on the phone? These are the kinds of decisions that you have to make when you get ready to make a product decision. Product-related, marketing-related issues with product is, who is this? At which segment are we going to position this product? Who's the target market going to be? Who is the competition? And how are we going to position this product in terms of the product itself, the promotional activities around that product, the distribution of that product, and of course, price. So, one of the first questions that your book brings up is product line decisions. That is, how many products should you have in the line? So let's say that I decide I'm going to have a line of running shoes. Okay. Well, how many different models of running shoes should I have in the line? Or I'm going to have a line of I'm going to start my own little brewing company. I'm going to sell beer. Well, how many different product lines of beer how many products should I have in that beer line? Okay, so the purpose of each item in a product line is to analyze that in terms of the sales that product has, the profits associated with that individual product, and the position it holds in the line and competitively. Certain products we have in the line simply because the competition has one in the line right there, and so we have one to compete directly with the competition's products. Next, the question is how many, so in terms of the idea of how many products in the line, what about adding products to the line once I've established it? Think about something like an automobile company. Well, there are a couple of approaches to adding new products to an existing product line. One is called line stretching up. And this, of course, would mean that what we do is we add a product at the top of the line. That is, we have all the other products that we've had in the line, and we add a product at the very top of the line, a product that's better than all the other products that we have in the line, more expensive. And, of course, the problem with line stretching up is that, in many cases, consumers aren't willing to pay the extra money because they don't associate those prices and those products with your brand. There is the issue of line stretching down, that is adding one at the bottom of the line. Two problems with line stretching down. One is that it may, at the end of the day, hurt the overall image of the brand because now you have more products at the lower end of the spectrum. And then the other problem with line stretching down is the potential for cannibalization. So when Mercedes offers a brand new low-end car to their line, or BMW offers the 100 series cars to their line, they are of course hoping that they're going to have more new customers who couldn't afford BMWs come in and buy the 100 model. But they may also find that people that were contemplating buying the 300 model slide down and buy the 100 model, and of course that is not what BMW is hoping to do. Of course, the other alternative for line stretching is you line stretch in both directions at the same time. While that may confuse customers a little bit, the idea is that the balance remains the same. You might do some line filling. This is where I add a product between two products that exist in the line. If you're familiar with the BMW series of cars, they had the 1 series, they had the 3 series, the 5 series, and the 7 series. They added a 1 series, but then they also added a 4 series, which of course would obviously be between the 3 series and the 5 series. Why would you line fill? Well, you might line fill because you need that product in the line because of the competition, or maybe you need that product in the line because there is an unfulfilled want and need by consumers for a product in that line. One of the dangers when we put a product in the line is we'd like customers to sell themselves up from the lower level product, but there is the possibility they might sell themselves down from the upper level product. And of course, we want people to sell themselves up, not down. Another product line decision that might affect how many products are in the line is called line pruning. That is deleting products in the line. Companies hate to delete products, but it's a necessity to make sure that the product line is modern and to make sure that the product line is not carrying models that simply don't sell anymore. Some other product line decisions is the whole concept of line modernization. How do I keep my line modern? How do I modernize it? Buick just went through a decision process where they took some of their sedans out of their line and added another SUV to their line. This is part of their line modernization strategy. Another product line decision that has to be made is which product in the line would you feature? One approach is to feature the best product in the line. So if you're Cadillac, you would take your big giant Cadillac SUV called the Escalade, and all of your ads would be about the Escalade, showing customers how good your top of the line product is, with the idea of creating a halo effect for the other models in the line. Another approach would be to advertise the lowest end product. You see Mercedes doing a little bit of this, where they actually market how inexpensive it is to buy a low end Mercedes. $28,000 you can buy an entry level Mercedes. And of course the idea would be that once you get to the store, they are going to try to trade you up from the C series to the top of the line E series, to the C series, to the top of the line of the E series, and on and on and on. Now, there is one illegal version of this sort of a strategy, and this is called bait and switch, something that you ought to at least be familiar with. The idea behind bait and switch is I advertise to you a product that I have no intention of actually selling you. So when you come, so I say that, we've got a $21,000 Mercedes on the lot, brand new Mercedes, $21,000. But when you show up, I point out to you that, well, they're all gone. But even if it was here, it wasn't really a Mercedes. It was a Mercedes made in some foreign country. And so it wasn't a real Mercedes. It was sort of a fake Mercedes. And this is the idea behind bait and switch. That is, I bring you in based on one product, but then I have no intention of selling you that product, and so I've baited you to come in, and then once you get there, I try to switch you to another product. That's an illegal product line upselling strategy. Other product mix decisions would be not only how, so we have the issue of depth, that is the number of items to have in a line. We also have the issue of width, how many lines to have. And of course, if we put the number of lines and we put the number of each items in the line, we have a total number of items, which is called length or assortment. This is width and depth. This is called length. And so if you think about something like a convenience store has a very shallow product line setup. That is, they only have one or two brands of anything, but they have a very wide mix because they have lots and lots of different products. And so convenience store is an example of a product mix that has an assortment that is shallow but wide. A specialty store would be just the opposite of that. A specialty store would be a store that doesn't have very many product lines. Maybe it only sells running shoes, but it has lots of items in the running shoe line, lots of brands, lots of styles and sizes and uses for those products. And so for a specialty store, they might end up with the same length or the same length in terms of products, the same number of products as a convenience store, but they get there in a very different way. Theirs is narrow and deep. Next, product mix decision is the issue of consistency. Have you ever gone into a store and everything looks like it belongs there, but except something doesn't look like it really belongs there? All right, that's the issue of consistency. Is the product mix consistent? An example of this is something like Foot Locker. If you go to a store called Foot Locker, you would expect to buy stuff for your feet, hence the name Foot Locker. So they sell shoes, all kinds of shoes, and they sell socks. And that makes good sense. But then they also sell a number of other things. For instance, they sell warm-up suits, and they sell travel bags, and in some cases they sell things like tennis balls and tennis rackets. And that's a question of product mix consistency. Now, one of the reasons that someone like Foot Locker does that is because some of those products I mentioned are complementary. That is, if I'm going to buy a $200 pair of running shoes, I probably want to make sure that I have a running sweatsuit or outfit that matches those shoes. And so why do I sell running gear along with the running shoes? Well, because those products are what we refer to as complementary. The next thing is something that your book spent some time talking about. It's called the product life cycle. The idea behind the product life cycle is that all products start out at the introduction stage, they get to the growth stage, the maturity stage, and then eventually they decline. This is what we in theory development call a tautology, because what the product life cycle basically says is that for every good, sales will go up and then eventually sales will go down. And you can say, well, I can give you some examples, Jack, of where that's not happened. Well, all my response to that is it just hasn't happened yet. So this is what's called a tautology. In reality, all products will experience this. Sales will go up and then eventually sales will go down. The idea behind the product life cycle is this idea of understanding where products are in a life cycle and then managing them accordingly. So we have the introduction stage, we have the growth stage, and then of course in the growth stage is when customers become aware of the product, sales grow at a very fast rate, new competitors come into the product, there's lots of sales, lots of excitement, lots of buzz. Eventually products then hit a maturity stage. When they hit the maturity stage, what happens is that sales tend to flatten out, total industry profits tend to go down, competition becomes much keener because there is not a lot of new primary demand, and so everyone to increase the sales for their product have to get customers from someone else. And then of course in the decline stage, sales are going down, some of the competitors are leaving the marketplace, and people have to decide how they're going to deal with the decline stage for products. The idea here is we have a little chart that the book talks about, and that is a chart that talks about competition, the product, the price, promotion, and the distribution strategies during the introduction stage, the growth stage, maturity stage, and the decline stage. A couple of quick things about the product life cycle that concern me, and one is it is very, very difficult to tell where in the product life cycle individual products are. So take something like a laptop computer. Where's the laptop computer in the product life cycle? Well, some of us might say the growth stage, late growth stage. Some might say the maturity stage. Some might say the decline stage. What about tablets? What about digital tablets? What about e-readers? What about automobile sedans? What about pickup trucks? And so one of the problems with the product life cycle is it's very difficult to identify where products are in the life cycle. And one of the issues, of course, is something called the Pygmalion effect. That is, if I believe my product is in the decline stage and I manage it and market it like it's in the decline stage, eventually sales for my product will decline. And so this is what's called the self-fulfilling prophecy, or the Pygmalion effect. There's two things to understand here. There's a difference between the product life cycle and the brand life cycle. And the goal should be to manage against the product life cycle, but manage the brand's life cycle. A good example of this would be something as simple as laundry detergent. Remember, there used to be, all laundry detergent used to be powdered. And when there were powdered laundry detergent, the number one selling laundry detergent was a detergent called Tide. Dirt can't hide from intensified Tide. Okay, and as powder detergents, eventually liquid detergents came into the marketplace, and the amount of people who were buying powder detergents kept going down, and people who were buying liquid detergents kept going up. And so the product life cycle for powder detergents hit the decline stage. But what did Tide do? What did Procter & Gamble do with the Tide brand? Well, they made a liquid Tide. And then when liquids slowed down, then they made tablet Tide, and then they made concentrated Tide, and so if you think about this, you manage against the product life cycle, but you manage the brand's life cycle to keep the brand alive over time. And of course, as products move through the life cycle, this emphasizes the need for new products.